it'll be back to a normal 12-game schedule and a normal, not in the ACC schedule for Notre Dame in 2021. They will play their normal ACC games that they always play, but then, of course, they'll play all the other games that they normally play as well, like Stanford and USC. So let's get into the schedule here, and you can see they actually open up with an SEC opponent on a Sunday against Florida State. Very interesting there. That's going to be a big stage. Two big-name programs on Sunday night of opening weekend. We don't know how good Florida State really is going to be, so it's hard to say what that game is going to look like. But Notre Dame loses a lot this year as well, so I think that has a chance to be a competitive game, or it could be an easy win for Notre Dame. Hard to say again at this point. We are very early in the offseason, but that's where they will open up the year, on the road at Florida State Sunday night before playing Toledo. They'll play Toledo on September the 11th at home, and then they'll follow that up with another home game against Purdue. Interesting matchup here against Purdue on September 18th. So they'll play, I guess, a couple of teams out of the Big Ten, and Purdue and Wisconsin. Unfortunately, no Michigan or Michigan State. I missed those matchups, but they'll play Purdue here on September 18th, and then it's a game against Wisconsin on the 25th. That will be at Soldier Field in Chicago. They were supposed to play last year. They will play this year, and that is going to be a big, big game. I think both teams have a chance to have really good years this year. That could be a big swing game. Could really alter their seasons. Whoever wins could go on to have a great year. Whoever loses might wind up finishing a little bit lower than expectations. So a big game there to close out the month of September against Wisconsin. And then it'll be Cincinnati on October the 2nd. Cincinnati, of course, coming off of a great year, undefeated regular season, kind of close to making the college football playoff. This year they've got a couple of Power 5 teams, if you count Notre Dame as a Power 5 team, that could potentially get them in the playoff if they were to go undefeated once again. This game will be at home for Notre Dame. It's a game that they've really got to win, and it's kind of in a tough spot. It's in between Wisconsin and then a road game against Virginia Tech. So maybe not an ideal spot to play a team like Cincinnati, but they get them at home. I think that'll be big for Notre Dame. And again, that game on October 2nd, they follow that up on October the 9th against Virginia Tech, like I just said, on the road. And if we have full capacity crowds, Virginia Tech is a very tough place to play. Who knows what it's going to look like by October? I expect fans, I don't know if it'll be full capacity, but I expect at least 50% capacity by this time. And so it's probably going to be a pretty tough environment against a Virginia Tech team that really didn't have a great year last year, but they have talent. They're not a horrible team by any means. And so that could be a tough game there as well. And then they'll get a bye week. So they get their bye week really right in the middle of the season. They'll play 6 games, get their bye, and then play rival USC on October 23rd. It'll be at home for the Irish. Glad to have this matchup back in 2021. USC going to have a high-powered offense once again. Should be a good matchup. And then a big game against North Carolina on October 30th. Of course, they played last year. It was a somewhat competitive game. It was close at halftime. Notre Dame did kind of pull away. Their defense really clamped down in the second half against North Carolina. But I expect North Carolina to be really good again this year, and that could be one of the biggest games really of the year. Could be an elimination game when you talk about the college football playoff, potentially. That's a big one. North Carolina on October the 30th. Then they'll go into the month of November. Open that up with Navy, November 6th. Good to see them again playing Navy again. And then on November 13th, they'll go on the road to face Virginia. Virginia coming off an okay year. Nothing like what they did a couple of years ago. I think this is another game that Notre Dame will be favored in. Georgia Tech on November 20th. A program that's really just trying to get things going again. They're, I guess, in rebuild mode, you could say. So Notre Dame will be a pretty big favorite there. And then Stanford on November 27th on the road. Stanford has really been down in the Pac-12 the last several years. We'll see what they look like this coming season. But again, this is a game where I think Notre Dame will be favored. So you look at the overall schedule. What jumps out to me is that stretch from Wisconsin to Virginia Tech. Wisconsin, Cincinnati, Virginia Tech on the road. Those 3 games back-to-back are going to be extremely difficult. Purdue, even before that, may not be an easy win. And with Notre Dame, they don't play FCS teams. They don't play many Group of 5 teams. So you don't really get many breaks if you're Notre Dame. So while you look at the schedule and you say, well, they don't play Clemson this year. They don't play any top 10 teams. Well, we don't know that. Cincinnati might be a top 10 team. Wisconsin might be a top 10 team. North Carolina might be a top 10 team. So this schedule is not loaded with heavy playoff contenders, but it's also loaded. It is loaded with a lot of teams that are potentially going to be in the top 25. So there are a lot of challenging games on this schedule, games that Notre Dame can win, but still they will be tough. And that's what really I think I noticed about this schedule is they're going to play a lot of teams that are not great, but are really good. And that is going to be really tough for Notre Dame. All the losses that they have from last year's roster with this schedule, 2021, can they make another run at the college football playoff? I think with this schedule, that's probably going to be tough, but not impossible.